recording.
Hi, Jacob. Good afternoon.
Hello. Hello.
Hi, Jacob.
Hello.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hello, everyone. Good day. Good afternoon.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Ferdy.
Ferdy, you got it.
Father.
You found us, Ferdy.
Yes, sir. Yes, Father.
Who's that, Father Bill?
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Bob.
Hello.
I don't see you, but I recognize the voice. Hi.
You don't.
Hi. Hi.
Everyone.
Hi, Bob.
Can we ask people to turn off their volume, because we do hear background things.
Um,
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon, everyone.
There's an echo.
there's an echo. I don't hear an echo.
I'm on mute.
Huh?
I'm on mute.
No, I can hear you. You're not on mute.
Oh,
How are you guys?
How's everyone?
Good.
Hi, Lala.
Good morning.
Is the officer on yet? Yes.
Good afternoon.
Okay. All right. We don't want to start without him.
Yeah,
People are still
Yes, I am.
coming on. Yes.
I am on.
Okay, good. People are still coming on. Maybe wait a minute.
No problem, sir.
So nice to see your faces.
Okay, it's close to 5 after. Perhaps we can begin and others. I'm not sure why we're getting okay. I'd like to begin with a prayer and through the intercession of our servant of God, Bill Atkinson. Blessed are you, God of life, source of goodness and peace, in whom all creation has its origin, and by whom every person is loved. And Father Bill Atkinson, your mercy and compassion were made manifest as he brought solace to the suffering and hope to the needy. By carrying the cross of life faithfully, Father Bill proclaimed confidence in your love and conformity to your will, and so drew others to you and to the generous gift of your grace. Hear our prayers, which we offer through his intercession for the safety and welfare of our parish community, so that as your work continues to unfold among us, it may bring honor to you in a very safe way, comfort to your people, and according to your will, Glory to your servant. And we ask this through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
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 Thank you all for being with us today. I know a Saturday afternoon is a busy time, but this seemed to be one of the more convenient times for many of us that we could do this. It was very much thought about to have it in person, but then it was thought about that we probably get a greater participation by doing it on Zoom. Some of the context of how we've got to where we are is there have been a few incidences outside here in the parish and a few inside in the church, a few when Mass wasn't going on and a few when Mass was going on. The reality is they were few, but the reality also is there were some that happened. And as a result of that, we've been in touch with the Philadelphia police, and Bob, our facilities director, has been very much, because of that, in touch with the officer who was with us today, Officer Chris. He's been around the property. He's looked around the property. He's been here when nobody knows he's been here alone in the middle of the night during the day when people are around, incognito. We've had a couple of incidences in the church. A couple of years ago, someone was panhandling for a couple of weeks in a row in the church. Father Jim and Paradis and Father Jim Keating, both the same day on a Sunday, had somebody who really was acting out a little bit more than we've had before. So all of this has brought us to say, are we prepared for whatever can happen, helping people to be attuned to what can happen and to prepare to be able to respond. We talked about this before the incident happened recently in Texas, in the synagogue. After that incident happened in Texas, you heard what the response was of the rabbi and the others who were there, is that they knew what to do because they had some preparation, or that situation could have been a lot worse also probably. So that's our point of gathering this morning. We hope to make this an hour. If it seems to be going longer, people have permission to leave after an hour and they want to stay, they can stay. Also, we ask you to stay muted unless you're going to be speaking, because that helps with obviously the acoustics. I asked the officer, he's going to talk first. He built into questions. I asked him if it was okay for people to ask questions while he's talking. He said yes. I would ask that you raise your hand or put down, raise your hand electronically there. Jacob will see it, call on you. I'll see you maybe. I don't see everybody. And then at the end, after he finishes, there'll be an opportunity to ask questions or give reflections, but hopefully everyone talking once and the respect of listening to each other. That's how we got here. That's who we are. I didn't say that Officer Chris, who's here today, and another officer met with the 4 Augustinian friars and Bob Zygmunt at a meeting, maybe about 3 weeks ago, I'm not sure. And that's a lot of how this evolved. It's from him talking with us about these situations. A lot of what we're talking about today is incidences that will happen during Mass, because that's when most of you are there. And that's why we've invited such a great different number, particularly Eucharistic ministers and lectors, because there are always Eucharistic ministers and lectors there. But we also wanted to have Finance Commission and the Parish Pastoral Council. That's our context and how we got where we are. Thank you very much for coming. Officer Chris, it's all yours.
Two things. Just so everyone knows, this session's being recorded, so you'll have an opportunity to go back later and watch it again. And Officer Chris, can you turn your device, because you're upside down?
How about now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, can see it. Can see you now.
Okay.
So Officer Lewis is with us. He's been giving a lot of attention to the parish, informally, formally, a lot of contact with Bob and with us, as I just finished saying. So Officer Lewis, welcome.
Thank you, Father. I just want to say thank you for inviting me today. You and Bob I'm glad that we are able to work with you in the parish to hopefully any of your concerns, especially when it comes to safety. If I just real quick, I have 34 years as a police officer. The last 6 I've been with counterterrorism. And my job at counterterrorism is I do security assessments, threat assessments. I've done it for the mayor, city hall, and churches. We do synagogues and other religious as far as mosques. Our goal is to help people understand the changing, evolving times when it comes to houses of worship and the threats and incidents they may face or what may arise. As you know, like the father has just explained, in Texas, unfortunately, there was an incident, and thank God that everyone got out safely. One of the problems, unfortunately, now in these changing times is more incidents happen at places of worship. So today we're going to go over some things that we could do, maybe prepare, better handle situations to make sure everyone is safe and everyone goes home. So that is what we're going to talk about today. Myself and Officer William Hessel, we came to the church. We did a security check and threat assessment. We did a report for the church and gave it to Bob. We went over things, and I'll give you an idea of what that meant. I came to the church. I looked at the lighting, the door situation, windows, the campus itself. I came during the day when it was open, and I came at night when it was closed to see how things work, how people operate. And I did a recommendation after we wrote everything down, and I handed it to Bob. After that, we had a meeting, as he said, and we went over some of the basic of the report that I myself and Officer Hessel turned in. Today we're going to talk about the mass and if there is an incident, which we should do. If there is an incident while at mass, there should be a little training amongst the staff to how to handle unruly people to threats. What we need to understand is communication is a key. So before mass, we should all communicate what if scenarios. What should we do? There should be someone there that always has a phone that can contact police in case of emergency. There should be a plan in place to help escort unruly people such as homelessness or someone that just does not belong at mass out of the building safely without anyone being hurt. So what I talked to the father about was that, Bill, that we should make a plan and have a plan in place along with several people to be in charge of any incidents during mass. Unfortunately, people, because it's mass, people can walk in at any time off the street. If that does happen, then we should have a plan in place to help them go back out on the street and away from the church. So we continue with mass and there is no problems. If a problem does arise where we cannot control it, then we need to call police. Then immediately we should have someone there to call the police. Now, I did talk to father about escape routes, and he informed me that he is not going to leave the church. So that means someone else has to take charge with certain things. Does everyone understand that?
Let
We
me
all on the
explain
same page?
when I say that. If somebody were to come in with a gun and what have you, I'm not going to run the other way.
Yes.
That's what I mean.
And there's such a thing called as fight or flight. Some people will run, some people will fight. So that's a decision you have to make amongst yourselves. But before that even happens, we should have a plan in place, a scenario. We should do a couple scenarios to see what happens. Who gets up? Who walks the person to this? Who escorts the person out of the building? It should always be in twos, not just one person. And there's the third person will always have that phone by them in case it escalates more than just that incident. Is everybody understanding that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So the problems with most churches and houses of worship has been homelessness. People coming in looking for a meal, unfortunately looking for money, looking for shelter. As a house of worship, that's your prerogative to let people stay or leave. That's your decision. I will say this house of worship has always had the doors open to everyone. So that's like I said, unfortunate decision that you would have to make. I understand that this church does a lot for the community. It's always been helpful from the Women's Center right next door to just outreaches. So this is a place of welcoming people in. It's the problems occur when you have people that aren't there for the right reasons. Now, we have active shooter courses. We have other courses that you can take that we're more than willing to help you to better prepare yourself in these changing times. I would let you know that if you're interested, you can get my information. Joe Rodman teaches the course. He also works with from the feds to the city to the state. He's highly respected in teaching the course. I just want to let you know that. But right now we're going to talk about minor incidents that might happen at your church. So when someone walks into the building, I say you could size someone up. If someone walks in and you have a spider sense, you don't feel comfortable with that person, that is your first key. So what you do is you let someone else know that is in your parish or with you that something is not right with that person. You can keep an eye on them, and then you can control them by saying, "Can I help you? Welcome. Is there something I can do for you today?" You could stop the person and just have a conversation. Sometimes verbally, walls are put in place that would help you in this situation. By just talking to a person, you can get a better idea of what they want. They might just say, "I might need a bathroom," or "Do you guys have some food?" And then you can take it from there. If they become more aggressive and they feel like they're going to be physically threatened to you or to the parish or to people at the church, then you have a awareness that then you need to call 911 right away. Does everyone understand that? So the first wall of defense is always verbal. To just say hello, may I help you? You just talking to people, you can figure out their motives sometimes. Number two is physical. No one likes to be physical, but you can direct people by gently putting your hands on their shoulders and saying, "Do you need help? Why don't I go and talk to you outside the church?" If they walk outside the church, that's what you want. We all understand when you talk to people, sometimes you can physically direct them outside the church. The key is that we want to get the person back outside. Because if they're outside the church, then you can shut the doors. Always understand that sometimes everything you do right might not work for that situation. So do not get frustrated. Do not, if you do the verbal, if you try the physical, just helping someone out the door and they do not go out, do not get frustrated. Do not lose control of the situation. Many times they are looking for a guidance or a direction. So you have to remain calm. Do not confront anyone by yourself. Make sure you have a partner, or I like to have a 3-person team, 2 people dealing with the person and the 3rd person with a phone in case something goes wrong. Now, the father was talking to me about sometimes there have been incidents where people have started yelling and screaming and hollering. That's still fine. You are to remain calm. You still need to get your point across that they need to leave or they cannot be helped. The only reason people scream and holler is to get attention, or they think they're embarrassing you. If you stay calm and remain on key and point, they will get the idea that it's not working, and usually they will calm down. Once they calm down, you again, we want to get them out of the church and say, yes, I can talk to you better outside. So is everybody on the same page? The key is to get the person outside of the building. Remain calm and communicate with your partners. If someone is talking to them and they feel like they're not getting through or getting frustrated, then you take over and say, here, let me talk to that person. And it might help. Sometimes we don't agree with everybody. The next person up talking to them might calm them down. We understand? Everybody on the same page? Good. Now we're talking about mass. Mass, when we're talking about mass, is, let's say there's a group of 50 people at mass, along with the reverend, along with the priest. There should be at least 3 or 4 people that are on the same page. So if he looks down at you and looks at a person, that the person that are working with the priest that day at mass, no, we need to keep an eye on that person, and then he can continue his mass. So communication is a key. So I would like before mass that we have, along with the father, maybe 4 or 5 people get together, start talking about a plan if something happens. You have to prepare. You have to know where exits are. If bad scenarios happen, how we can evacuate people. If we have to shelter in place, if someone has to call 911, there should be someone that will be outside the door when police get there to let them know what's going on. It is key to prepare in today's times. If we prepare, we train, we work together, a lot of incidents we can control. The key is to control the incidents. An environment that is chaotic does not, everybody has to stay calm, believe that they will get out of that situation. And the only way to do that is that we need to do training or talk to each other to give different scenarios. What if, and that doesn't mean that if we do the training, if we talk to each other, if we communicate, that something bad still might happen, but at least we would be prepared to handle any incidents that come through the church. Any questions so far? No questions?
Ruth has a question. Ruth, you want to unmute yourself?
I just have a question. Are you suggesting, I'm sorry, did I go ahead of somebody else?
I did.
Ruth.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Ruth, I think.
Ruth? Go ahead, Ruth.
Yeah, I know that the first thing it would, for safety, would be to run, hide, and fight. But then if you're in a mass and there will be like 100 people, people might be calm, but other will panic. How do you control that?
That is a very good question. We can only control it by training, by having, let's say there's a large mass. And at this church, are there exits in the parish?
Yes.
So each person takes an exit and then would direct people to go. So we would have people going to the street, to the side of the buildings to get out. If we can do that by telling people how to get out of the building. Do you understand?
Whoever has the dog barking, if you could mute yourself, please. Thank you.
Oh dear, it was Ruth's dog. In the meantime, you're suggesting that prior to each mass, there's a little group that meets to talk about?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
About exits, about scenarios, and someone should have a phone. So if there is a incident in the church, we got to know how to get people out, who we're going to call, and what situation you're going to do.
And so the goal, if there are a lot of people, would be to get those who want to stay, fine, but to get others out, to reduce the number of people who might be at risk, right?
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay, and so, all right, go ahead.
Go ahead. No,
No,
you have
Another question.
Kathy, I'm going to pick up on that in a little while, what you're saying, I think.
I have to raise my hand.
Yeah, they can't hear
Gene
you.
has a question.
good
Gene,
afternoon. Go ahead.
Yes. Hi. Are we?
Femi, you're muted, Femi.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you,
Now.
ma'am.
Okay. My question is, are we allowed to bring pepper spray for your protection in the church?
You're allowed to have pepper spray on you, yes, but that's up to you and the church. Have to see if he would want pepper spray in the church. That's a decision that you and the father would have to make. But you're legally allowed to carry mace, I believe, pepper spray. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You want to know if you can use it in the church?
No,
Well, either I can use or I could bring.
I think you wouldn't use it unless the person got physical.
Yes,
Right.
but let me explain about any mace or pepper spray. It sprays on everybody. So what I would tell you, you would have to, I would practice with that, or make sure you know how to use it, because you might spray someone that's trying to help you.
Right.
Yes.
You're
You
indoors.
have to.
I just want you to understand that. So if you're going to do that, I would check
Good.
with everyone to make sure. Because you're going to be in
Okay.
a enclosed space, and it's going to be, it can be chaotic. And then when you spray pepper, mace or pepper spray, it can get, I've been sprayed by both. It's painful, and I was helping. Okay, so just be careful with that.
Understood.
Ruth, I don't think you were finished when you took care of the dog.
Yeah, I think she had a question.
You have to
My
unmute
second
yourself,
question.
please.
My second question, officer, is this. You're talking about someone that we can guide out, like an
Yes, ma'am.
aggressive behavior. How about for someone who really is an active shooter that you really don't know?
Well, there's two different scenarios, ma'am. So just, I want to clarify that. Someone like a panhandler or someone of a homeless person, that's a non-lethal threat.
Mhm.
You're just helping them out. An active shooter that comes in, that's a lethal threat. So that's totally different. That's when you have to make the decision to flight or fight. So that's two different scenarios, ma'am. So what do you want to know? What to do?
What to do?
Well, each scenario is different, man. Unfortunately, when it happens, you would have to make that decision. You would either have to fight or you would have to flight. what I would tell everyone here at this meeting, we should know how to get out of that building if you have to flee. Does everyone know how to get out of this building? Do you know how many exits are in the building?
You have to have two, 3.
6,
3.
6.
Four.
There's six.
Six.
Thank you.
There's
So-
6.
See that gentleman right there? Maybe he should walk everyone around to let them know that there are 6 exits out of that building.
Mhm.
Could you tell us
I
where the
think when,
6
I
are?
think when Ruth is talking, hold on, I think when Ruth is talking about 4, she's she's not talking about the sacristy and going into the Augustinian chapel. There would be 2 doors, and you all know that those doors are there also.
Yes, I believe a young lady had a question, was about to ask a question.
Yes, well, I know that Bert has been wanting to ask a question for a quick minute, but while we're on this subject, can somebody clarify there are 6 exits? Because I can only think of the back, the side back, the Augustinian chapel and the sacristy.
And there's one.
There's one off in the sanctuary that would be like right by Carr Hall. And then
That goes-
the one by the bathrooms, the front door, and the one that would go out towards the Peace Garden, Healing Garden.
But are
And
those
then the
doors
2
open?
Yes.
Oh, I thought they were always locked. I'm sorry. Okay, and I know Bert has a question.
So what we're seeing right now is that, see, we have to be familiar with our building, right? And that's what I'm talking about. So before mass, we make sure we know the exits. So you're more comfortable. You understand that people panic when they don't know. But the more you know, the more you train, the more you're more comfortable with it. When an incident does happen, you're more likely to just do it by nature. You
Bob
understand?
got it? Bob,
Bob?
Don't forget Bert. Didn't you have a question, Bert?
hold,
I had
Bert.
it on mute. For some reason, I was under the impression that some of those doors are chained
No.
exits. They're not? Okay. Well, I'm
By-
that's,
By fire
Okay,
code, you're not saying a door exit.
They've never
Okay.
been chained.
okay, good. Thanks.
Gene, did you have something?
Yes, I did. At which point can the designated persons be physical with the person that is disturbing? Like, say, for example, because like you said, communication is the key. Say, for example, that person that we're trying to escort out starts to get physical and starts spitting on those persons that are trying to escort. At which point can those designated persons be physical with that person?
Well, you could be physical with a person when a person's physical with you, and that includes spitting. If someone spits on you, you can turn them around and escort them out of the building. That spitting on someone is a physical assault. Okay. So the key is that hopefully you don't want to get to that point, but if you get to that point, then you have to just make that decision. What do you want to do? So I'll give you a scenario. So now I walk in, you look at me, you look me up and down and go, he doesn't belong here, or he's should not be here right now. You stand up and say, can I help you? And I go crazy with some rant and spit on you. Is that cause for being escorted out? Right. Once he gets escorted out, someone should be immediately calling 911 because that is assault. Okay. Just like if I punched you in the face or pushed you down, or so yes. So you can make an incident report with that.
And if I could say something there or ask you a question, maybe, officer. First of all, people have permission to say, should I call 911 or not? I think the answer is, when you see something like that, is yes. And that's one of the reasons for today, that people know that they can or they should. The other is, and I think this is what you told us when you met with us as a small group, is the more people who call, sort of the bigger response that you get. So if you see somebody else calling, it doesn't mean you shouldn't. Would that be true or not, officer?
No, you can call also.
If you know
but
someone else is calling, should you also call?
That is correct. And when you call, you have to give two things: the place of the place of the building where the incident's happening, and the description of the doer or the offender. That is key. So everybody understand. First, I'm going to give is the address. The address of the building.
But more than one person, more than one person can call. And for GPS purposes, I think the church is 240 North 4th Street, Jacob?
No, 250.
250 North 4th Street.
Right.
For I don't know how much you can say. You can always say 4th and Vine. But the GPS, I think, is with Jacob. I thought it was 240. The 250 North 4th Street. 240 might be the parking lot. Whatever. That if you can't say just 4th and Vine, you have to. We don't get mail at the church, so there is no address there as such, other than.
Also, I want to say, Jacob, thank you. He knows a lot about the church. He has been ever since I've been here, he's been very helpful, very thoughtful. So I do want to say thank you, Jacob.
My pleasure.
Bob Shuck.
Yeah, thank you, Officer Chris. In some states, there's something in law called fighting words, whereas if somebody aggressively came at you, didn't physically touch you, but verbally assaulted you, let's say, put it in that context. Is that the case in Pennsylvania, where you could physically defend yourself at that time?
I don't know, and I'm not going to sit here and say I know that fighting words law, but I do know if you feel threatened, you're allowed to defend yourself. But the key is you would have to prove that just because somebody says words to you, I could say words to you right now and be walking away. Am I a threat?
Right. I understand.
So I go by the common sense. If they're screaming at you, yelling at you, but they're not physically touching you, but if I can't say it, but if you feel threatened that you need to protect yourself, I can't tell you what to do on that one. But if they're not, this is how I would do it. When I'm on the street, people curse me out. People have said nasty things about me and my family, and it just goes off in one ear and out. As long as they're not physically putting their hands on me, they could say whatever they want. But as long as they're away from you or they're not, I wouldn't confront them. No. But if they're in the church and they're screaming and hollering and they're being verbally aggressive, that is a reason to call 911, because now they're trespassing. Okay, now they won't leave. So that's why you call 911, and then the police will come, and then we will deal with them.
Okay,
So my answer for you is, we don't want to physically have to put our hands on anyone, and we don't want them to put their hands on you. So you call 911 in that situation, and the police will come, and then we will deal with that situation.
Okay. Thanks a
Rainey?
lot.
You're welcome, sir.
Yes, officer, so before Mass, there are 3 people designated. During Mass, Father Bill nods at somebody and looks over. I assume then the 3 people get up. and approach the person. One person asks the question, can I help you? Do you need assistance? What happens then? The person either shows that they have a knife or a weapon. Should there be a way, or is there a way then to let everyone know in the church that this is now turned from just maybe somebody who's homeless coming off the street or looking for a bathroom to now it's turned into a different situation? Aside from now, the one person calling 911 immediately, how do you let the rest of the church know that this seemingly wayward person, looking for a bathroom is now, it's turned to something else?
Could be okay. Well, with that scenario, so let me make sure I'm getting the scenario right. Father Bill nods over. Now, you don't have to confront someone. You just have to watch them. You can observe. If they're just sitting there, I would just keep observing. But let's say you, for some odd reason, went over to confront him and he or she shows you a knife. If they just show you the knife, you back away. You make sure someone calls 911, gives a good description of the person, and then I would slowly ask people to move away from that person for a moment. If they do not, if they just show a knife or you see a knife on them and they have not produced the knife, then call 911 and then have people move away. There's no reason to confront them if they're not. Now, if they pull out a knife, that's something different, but you understand?
Yes, thank you.
So here's the thing I'm trying to teach you guys about communication. If Father Bill nods at you just to observe or to look, then just pay attention to that person. But if they don't do anything, they might have went in there for services and then they left, right? But anytime you call 911, make sure you give a good description of the person that you're calling about. Okay?
Ruth? Ruth?
Officer, I know that you have to be vigilant and observant and trying to put someone to watch. The situation is people are facing the sacristy altar and some are praying and someone comes in. How would you defend yourself? You caught us unguarded. It can happen.
Well, what I would tell you with the mass is not everyone's going to be looking out front, right? Some of the people that will be there that meet before the mass, what should they be doing? They should be looking at the doors or the other ways to get into the church. You understand what I'm saying?
I know, I can understand that, but it just like, I couldn't figure out how observant would be the people in mass when everyone is facing the church, the altar. I mean, unless you assign someone actively watching the door and the exits.
I think what Ruth is saying, all the entrance doors that people normally come in are behind the congregation, so they wouldn't see anybody coming in until the person's on top of them. The other three exit doors that we were talking about earlier are up front, and they're kind of like almost emergency doors, or they are staff kind of doors. But the three main doors that people come in are behind the congregation, so their backs are to them at all times.
Yes, I understand what she's saying, and what I'm saying to her is that before mass, we would have someone cover those doors. We would designate someone to be at those doors with a cell phone. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, everyone can't watch the mass. Some of us has to watch the congregation. So we would assign someone in the back to the doors. Do you understand what I'm saying, Ruth?
Yes, I do, but can we do it?
Yeah.
Almost like
Well-
having ushers. Yeah.
Yes. Well, yes, but that's up to you. I can't, that's up to your staff if someone would want to be assigned to that.
One of our things here is what's after with this, I was picking up on what Kathy was saying earlier and somebody else's, when we come to the end of our session today, is what are our next steps? And that's where that would come in, I think, Ruth.
Father
Where do
Bill,
we want to go from here?
since we're talking about facing that, most of the people who come in through the rear. And so people who are at prayer or observing the mass or preparing for mass don't see who's coming in. So one thing that occurs to me is that our music people are up in the loft and they sort of have a bird's eye view of what goes on in the church. Granted, they're in front of the entrance, but I wonder if, will we be instructing them too on, because that's a perfect person to call 911 too, because they can't be viewed as a threat.
And that's a good point, Ruth. That's a very good point. So
Kim is here, who's the director. My immediate response to that is hopefully they're not going to be up in the loft. Hopefully the pandemic will be over shortly and they'll be back down on the with the congregation.
Okay.
That's a hope that once the pandemic is over, they won't be up there. Secondly, let Kim speak. I believe he's here. We can't depend on that. I think if they see something, yes, they should, but we can't depend on it because they're tied up with the music and watching them, look at the hymnals and what have you. Kim, you're here. Do you want to respond to that at all?
I don't think Kim is with us.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, there he is. There he is.
Yes.
Right.
I
Did you hear
think
that?
we'll just be vigilant since we can see everything up there. But there should be a way for us to communicate in front as well. I don't know if should we announce something? Would that cause more trouble if we announce something, we say something from upstairs?
If you see something upstairs, that incident that is a threat to the congregation and the mass, I would call 911 immediately.
Okay.
Okay. And then when you call, you're going to give the location and the perpetrator's description and stay on the phone with 911. Do not hang up until they tell you to hang up. Okay.
Okay.
We just lost your visual.
Yeah, sorry
Chris.
about that. It's
Right.
coming back.
Just for clarification, your name on there is Mike Lewis, but you go by Chris, right?
Yes.
Right. Just a clarification that people don't think I'm nuts calling you Chris.
No, my mother named me after two saints and it still didn't work out. Christopher Mike. She tried to start. So, folks, what I'm trying to make sure you understand is that we can always have different scenarios of what if, but if we don't plan, if we don't work together, no matter what scenario, if we're not prepared for it, it will not work out. So I would love to one day, if everyone wanted to come to the church and we walk through the exits, we looked at different scenarios. We did some scenarios so you get an idea that you're comfortable, that you work together, that you communicate. So it will automatically be when you walk in the church, you automatically start talking to one another. You automatically look for certain things. You just key up, and then all services will be more you'll be more comfortable. And then take it from there. Can everybody see me?
No.
You turned it off. You turned it off again.
Hold on.
There, you're okay. You're back.
So the thing I wanted to emphasize before we leave is communications, planning, and then working together so we're comfortable. So everybody has a working part in protecting yourselves and the church. The key here is always remember we all want to go home safe at night. That's what I want to emphasize. And the only way we're going to do that I'll come back. I'll meet with everyone at the church so you can see how to go over different scenarios, how to be comfortable, how to talk to one another when you walk in. Your mindset is different. It's a mass, but it is also for your protection. And if you become comfortable and you do a little training, you'll be surprised that it will become second nature to you. Is everybody in agreement with that?
Yes.
So the last
do have-
time,
Anybody have any other questions on this part of it?
Could I ask
Yes.
just one question?
Kathy?
Make one observation. It's Father Paul.
hello, Father Paul.
I
Good
go-
to see you.
How you doing? Thank you, Mike, Chris. It seems to me the key thing we are discovering today, and we have yet to work out when we hear from you more in person, is this gathering 3 or so people before Mass, each Mass, so that there's somebody in that key role. That's going to be a real difficulty or challenge, just a challenge for us. You never know who's going to, you never know who you got a lector there sometimes. So, but I think the key person that may have a view of everything is the priest. And, as we have always done, I think, if from your vantage point, celebrating the Mass, you can see if somebody's in a troubled, let's say, and or threatening posture. And I think we could just say, if that happens, even before we have another meeting, the priest could simply like nod or point at that person and anybody, but in particular of the 3 people who are in that role could assist that person in the very steps you're saying. Does that make sense?
Yes, but what I'm trying to explain to you, the reason why you want 3 to 5 people or a little meeting, a group before, is because you're able to talk and communicate and get things coordinated a little better than someone just walking off the street and realizing something is going on with the incident. Do you understand that?
I understand that, yes.
So let me explain something to you. By the more people we talk, the more people we train or work with, that's a bigger base that you have. So you're right. Everybody might not be there that day, or there might be different mass, but the coordination and the training will be the same. It will be, everybody knows what to do. There have been incidents where active shooters incidents at churches and places of worship, but because so many people were trained and people communicated with each other, they knew what to do. So the only thing that was consistent was the priest or the people in charge of the church. But the congregation, because of the training, because of the communication, knew what to do.
Father Bill, Boris, they've had a question for a while there.
Go ahead.
He's waving
That's
his
right.
hand.
Ray?
Yes. Can I say something? Because I just came here and I'm really listening to what you're talking about. Just give you some experience. We've been doing that for a long time since we've been in St. Augustine with Oli. As you know, Oli is a former cop, policeman. There's a lot incident there that nobody knows. It's only me and Oli. We're trying to solve things like there's a homeless there screaming or asking. Sometimes Oli give them money just to please them and then escorted them outside. And by the way, maybe you noticed that I always stay at the back of the church. The main reason there is to keep an eye because there was what do you call this? An incident that Lito Gilbiro, because he's an usher, he left his jacket at the back of the pew. and somebody stole it. And it so happened I'm assisting also the, guiding the people for the community. So nobody's going to watch. So that's why I commit myself. If I go, I always stay at the back so that people
Well,
have peace of mind, going to communion, they can leave their things behind.
right. So this is my point exactly. You do that on your own, but did you ever communicate that with anyone else?
I'm working with Oli Lupena because we've been doing this long time ago because there's a lot of incident inside the church. There's a lot of commotion, and I always call the attention of Oli Lupena to come and help me. And he's the one talking to the person.
My request then, Ray, is can you come to all 3 masses every weekend?
No, Father. I was suggesting is, an usher.
I know.
An usher should be one at the back.
That's where we go to is what are our next steps? And that
and also
ties into what Father.
Because like our 11 o'clock mass, we have Oli Lupena. That's why every time he's in the choir loft or in the choir, I always call his attention to come and help and solve those things. So I don't know the rest of the mass. It's only 11 who take care of that.
Let me respond to where I think we are at 5 Love with a couple of things, and ties in a little bit with what Father Paul was just saying.
Yeah.
2 different things. One is one of the reasons we invited the electors and Eucharistic ministers today is we know there'll always be a lector and Eucharistic minister there.
Right.
And that now that in general, in general, of some of the scenarios that you can do, and you have permission certainly to call 911. Eucharistic ministers and lectors are usually in the front. The presider can nod to them to do that. And that's not a perfect system because there's not always somebody there. Not every Eucharistic minister and lector is here. However, generally speaking. Secondly, and that's important, a number of you are lectors, Eucharistic ministers, and you're in the front, can be nodded to, what Father Paul says. Chris has said to us before that we as presiders should not say, I'm going to call 911. They said that becomes agitating, but that we can nod to someone to do that. And that's what's important. The second thing is, are there people here who are willing to be part of a safety committee? Which, what happens when you have meetings is you create another committee. And if there are a number of people here who would be willing to be part of a safety committee, then we can get together and see how we want to go from there. Do we want to form that with their, just like we assign lectors and Eucharistic ministers each week, do we want to assign that there are 3 safety people there each week or 2 safety people each week? We're not talking about a lot of people in church. A lot of our masses, we have 20, 30 people, the 9 and the 7. So we might not have to have 3, but do we want to be more formal about this and more organized and have a safety committee that evolves, and then from there to see where we want to go from there. So there are my 2 things. One is there's always a Eucharistic minister and lector. Those who are here know you have permission to call 911. The other is, do we want to get a little bit more formal?
As I said, Father, can you recruit the ushers?
Yeah.
We can assign.
We really don't necessarily have ushers except at the 11, right?
Readers.
At the 11, because
we're not always sure. We're not always sure who's going to take. We're not always sure who's going to take up the collection at the 9 and the 11. Very honestly.
No, 11. We can ask 11 because we have a regular.
So the 9 and the 7.
Yeah, 11 is
the 9 and the 7.
Yes.
Right.
I will say that
we want to formalize this a little bit more, and are people willing to be part of that?
Father, it's Dave Ryan. One recommendation I would have is similar to what we had at the very beginning of the pandemic. We used to have greeters at the back of the church, and you take it in more of like a friendly approach and non-combative necessarily, and you're sitting at the back of the church and observing. And those are the folks that would be assigned to do that, 2 people at every mass.
That's a great suggestion. When I go to other churches, other places of worship, I tell them about ushers or greeters, and then I come back and I train them on how to greet people, talk to people, and show them what they could do before a person comes into the actual place of worship. So that is a very excellent idea.
Father Bill, going forward, would it be possible on one particular Sunday, in lieu of the homily or in a shortened homily, to have a presentation made to the full congregation about these safety issues and the entrances, the egress and ingress, and the basic tips for what to do, and so that everybody's who more or less comes to Mass on a regular basis is in the loop, has some idea of what's going on? I mean, I know
we could.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I will always come back. This is not going to be my last time. I would come back, go over safety tips physically, so we could walk around the church and everyone get comfortable. And I could show you safety tips and also greeting tips to make sure people are more comfortable. Yes, whatever you guys need, I will do. And myself and Officer Hessel. So I am here.
Are there people who are willing? You don't have to maybe answer right now. You can email me. And this is very much along with Dave's suggestion, but it's what I was saying before, but just call it greeters. That would be great. Much more positive, and it has a more positive approach if someone's welcome when they come into the church. That people be greeters, and that we have that organized. But Dave was talking about the pandemic. People were agreed to be sanitizers. And they were there a lot of times in the beginning to help people get acclimated. But if people would be willing to be greeters and to know that part of the idea of greeters would be to be alert to all these kinds of issues, and they would have some more training. So if people want to pick that up, if anybody here wants to say that they would be one of those greeters, we're not going to, and then and if they are, then we'll gather again, and maybe Chris would join with us, and we can see where we want to go from there.
Father Bill, it's been my pleasure and honor to help anyway with the church.
Thanks, Chris. We know that. Thank you. But don't go away yet.
And Kathy,
Kathy,
Chuck
you
has,
putting your hand up to be a greeter?
you're muted.
You're muted, Kathy.
Okay.
Good.
What I wanted to say was, as a lector, the way the lectors are scheduled, the first lector is in the back of the church anyway to carry up the book. So you sort of tend to be a greeter / lector, so I think it's sort of like a dual, could be a dual job.
More people alert. The thing is that not all lectors are here today. Right. I hear that's good. It's good, Kathy. It's good. Would people be willing to be formal greeters?
Mhm.
Sure.
I'm happy to be a greeter. If if Jacob wants to do the same thing as far as when he sends around the lecture schedule, maybe there's another schedule that goes around that says greeters.
Right. But just if people be willing to do that, we should get that first, and then we'll meet with them and see how that might get scheduled. I think I'd like to try that somebody would do that scheduling. Jacob's doing a lot now. Anybody else be willing to be a greeter as such? Kathy saying your yes?
No, Bob.
That's Bob's hand. There's
Oh,
my
Bob.
hand.
Yeah, I can be a greeter.
Is Kathy saying it too?
Sure. Yes.
Ferdy?
Bill
I
and
can't
Maureen.
see. I can't see okay, Bill and Maureen. I can't see it on people on my. Thank you, Paul. Bill and Maureen. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can't see everybody on the screen. So
I can be a greeter.
who was that? Agnes?
Yeah, not on my not on my Eucharistic days because I go. Well,
I
actually,
have it
yeah.
all together.
Okay. Anybody else being willing to be a greeter? I have Bob Gata, Bob and Kathy Schuck, Ferdy, Bill and Maureen, Agnes.
Bill.
If I can't see you, speak up.
Bill, I don't know about the next step being something just for the greeters, or was there something that Mike and Mike suggested about like this group being invited again to a follow-up in the church that would show a little more hands-on assessment of things, and even sounds like few little role plays. That could be happening aside from the whole smaller group of greeters being gathered too. But maybe this whole group might be worth trying to get together to follow up with a deeper dynamic in the church sometime with Chris. Just a thought.
It sounds like a very good plan, Father Paul.
Do you think people are willing to do that?
Sure.
Yes.
I think the more we get comfortable, the more positive you will see. The better getting together.
I still think that some discussion with the entire congregation on a given day of masses could be helpful, because that way everybody's on the same page and has more of an idea of how things should happen or what is happening if they see something odd. You know, if they see that some behavior is going on among the parishioners, you know, in preparation, so that they're not panicking, that they know that we have a plan, that what's going on. So is it, even if it's not in lieu of a homily, can we carve out a few minutes to talk to the congregation about?
Well, I think it's more important that we get together first before we talk to first. We have to be on the same page and get comfortable and get the scenarios correct before we get the masses involved, because sometimes people will panic, people will get the wrong, but we should first be the core and then expand out.
Yeah.
So this is our first meeting talking before you want to add everybody else in, because even today we have so many different opinions, minds. Why don't we get on track ourselves before we expand? Is that okay?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
If we want to follow up with this, there are two different things here. One is formalized greeters, which is somewhat independent, but very interdependent with this, interactive with it. And I would try to get together with them, and if some more people be willing to do that, that would be great, so that we know that all three masses can be covered. Jacob can send out another thing on Monday, as he did for this meeting, asking for that, A. And then B, maybe Chris and I can come up with a date to do what Chris is talking about, what Father Paul's talking about, more in person. And hopefully the weather will be better, and maybe COVID will be better, maybe in a month or so, to do this. There are two different things there. And then, you know, the reason that we had this on Zoom today is we didn't think many people would come in person. However, having had this, maybe more people might come now, because the appetite maybe a bit wet a little bit. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
If we can bring some food.
Well, if you bring
very quickly, we've been talking about safety issues, but if there are health issues, we need to be alert to that. And that's not Chris's domain, but there are, what do you call them? The defibrillators, right, Jacob?
Yes.
And people need to know that. There's some in the front of the church that were done in Thanksgiving to Rosemary and Jerry for their 50th anniversary a number of years ago. They're there. People need to know that they're there, but I also understand people need to know how to use them, and that people can't just go use them. But we have a number of nurses and doctors, and hopefully, And hopefully we have a number of people, because we have a lot of medical people in the community, especially Filipinos, people know how to do CPR. If that's another whole area that we need to bring people together on, it's independent of this, CPR and defibrillation. That's another, there are other areas. And that people would know to get up and do something. Obviously, if somebody's having a heart attack, to know, and not just to watch it. You almost need permission to do that, but I like people just to say that here, that people be able to do it. Chris, you leaving it? No, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you're back.
Father,
Yes, Ruth.
I think you have to be certified to use that.
No,
You have
no,
to be. Yeah.
No,
Right.
you don't.
No?
No,
No,
you
you
don't.
did-
You have, if there's an emergency, you don't have to be certified to use it.
no.
That's there for an emergency. Anyone can use it. I mean, if you are certified, the better. But if you know, it gives you the idea how to use it. If someone has a heart attack at the church and it's there, that's why you have to go get the AED. You don't have to be certified. You are BLS certified, so you are good to use it, right?
But our facilities director, Bob Ziegman, would very much disagree with that, right, Jacob?
Yes.
He's
That's
very
only
much.
that's only because he's a paramedic, but the one that we have, I believe, talks you through it. If
Right.
not, there's a massive amount of instructions with it. And just Father saying plural AEDs, there's only one in the church and there's one in the hall.
There's also a first aid kit in the sacristy.
Yes.
Good for people to know that.
Do you have,
I'm not sure what's in it, but there is a first aid kit there.
It's a huge kit, so there's tons of stuff in it.
Father Ferdy, most of us nurses know how to do CPR.
Yes,
First
yes.
And
And that gives me confidence. That's what I was saying before.
I have another
just want-
question, Father.
Yes.
This is question is for Officer Mike Lewis. First of all, I would like to thank you, Officer Mike Lewis, for giving us this day talking about safety precautions. Now, you mentioned about training. Who is going to do the training?
that would
Is
be me.
it going to be for the whole church or just for a select few?
This
It
group
would-
that's here and others.
Right. So I will tell you right now, I would do the training on the safety scenarios along with Bill Hessel. And then for the active shooter, that's Joe Rybin. He is one of the top active shooter instructors for the actually for the country. He's been doing this for 20 years. So there's
Chris, would you see that at the same time as what you were doing?
no, I
The
would do
active shooter
that.
part?
And,
That's what I thought.
and then we would call Joe Rybin to set up.
Another-
He would come into the
Right.
so
And
as far as the training, we would go over different scenarios. Like I said, we need to come together, learn the building, learn what we can do in the building, what we can't, and make it more us.
Can I say where we go from here? And what we talked about the greeters, I'm going to include Ray and Ollie in that, although they didn't say so.
Yes.
Thank you. Did Ray say yes?
No,
Have you
I said
yes?
that.
Oh, Chris. is.
Yes, yes, Father.
Okay, thank you, Ray. All right. Hold on. The phone's ringing, you can't hear it. Jacob's not here to answer it. Let me try to get these guys together for one thing, and that would be two, whatever it is, Bob Gada, Bob and Kathy, Ray and Ollie, Ferdy, Bill and Maureen and Agnes. That's a lot. And that's good to get them together and a little bit more be organized, that we know there are three people there all the time and maybe some others. And then what Jacob can do, maybe I'll talk with Chris right after this meeting and ask about the time that he can come with everybody who's here, who's able to come. Chris, and I'll ask everybody here, is Saturday at this time okay? And at nights, people have to travel some. It's more difficult to travel at night. I tell you, my nights are pretty tied up. Which is this time on Saturday acceptable?
Yes.
For people?
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Usually.
Yes.
That makes life a lot easier for me. It really does. Thank you. All right, maybe after this meeting, Chris and I will look at a Saturday in a month from now, maybe right after Easter, perhaps. I don't know. And then I'll try to get together with these people who will be greeters, and one step at a time, we'll move from there. Does this all make
Father.
some sense?
Excuse me, Father.
Yes.
Can you add Lito Galvero?
Can I what?
Add Lito Galvero on the.
I'd be happy. I'm happy to add anybody. Sure.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you all very much. Officer Mike, Chris, Officer Lewis, whoever you are. Tell your mother we give her thanks for 2 names. Thank you very much. You've been with us not just today, but before. You're with us at one meeting we had. You're with us again today. You're going to come back again, which is a real service to us. And I don't know if you know that the Philadelphia Police Department, as its functions today, started from here. That's another whole thing. So we have the roots here as a result of when our parish, when the church was burnt down, the Augustinians, being the good Christians that we are, sued the city, and the parish did, and we won, and the Philadelphia Police Department got reorganized as it is today, so that we would have protection. So you're a part of that. So we have an intimate relationship with the Philadelphia Police Department. So thank you very much for what you're doing for us. We appreciate it. There will be some other things that will happen if nothing else happened. I think this has been educational and informative for people and helpful in case there's a problem. But we'll continue the momentum. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Any final thought, people? How was this for everybody today?
Good. Very informative.
Very good.
There's Lala. That was great.
It's good.
All right. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. And we'll stay in touch on those 2 different levels. Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Something.
Mhm.